Okay, so welcome again formally on day two. Today we are going to talk about text part of the constituents of website. Yesterday we discussed what a website is. We saw some examples like Amazon, NDTV, Facebook, and Google. We found something very common among all portals that they were containing either text or images and icons and some color combinations. And we also discussed which one looks most attractive and more easily consumable. All four sites that we took up in our discussion were from different domains, but we had a natural preference for some of them, while we did not like the layout of one or the other for different reasons. Everyone has a preference. So today, what we are going to talk about is text and how we can make text look better and better in a web page. Okay. So there are various HTML tags available in, of course, HTML, which we can use. We used a couple of tags yesterday. We used H1 tag, and we also used P tag. Uh, One more request, guys, I hear some background noise. Please go on mute if you're not speaking or you are not answering questions. Please remain on mute. Okay, please switch off your mic. So the tags that are available are listed here. A lot of heading tags. We used H1 and we used P, the paragraph, yesterday. But there are 6 predefined heading tags in HTML library: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. They differ in their size, their font, etc. All headings, and we can practice with each of them. And paragraph, as we know, will put multiple lines or multiple words in a paragraph and then put up a line break automatically. Now, there could be a situation where you want to put a line break forcibly. We observed in HTML that even if we put line breaks in our source code, the HTML browser ignores those line breaks. But if we have to force line breaks, how can we do that? So let us try that for the time being. Again, quickly. Suppose this is line number 1, and I wrote something like this. This is line number 2, and I save it as, say, today's first example. Okay, example of day 2, 1. Okay, and now extension should be .html. Just remember that. We saved it. Let me go back to the browser and see it. What do we see? We see it as both in the same line. Let's now try to force a line break. For that, the tag is BR tag. Now, BR tag does not necessarily require a closing tag. So we can write it BR as it is, or we can write it like this. Both will have the same effect. It will not matter. We will talk about the syntax and its correct syntax based on the rules. And in that, I will tell you that most of the time you have to have a closer tag. But BR is one of the tags which does not require a closer tag. In general, browsers will accept it as it is. Okay, so I put a line break tag, which is BR tag, break tag, after line 1, and then I go back to the page and refresh, and I see, hey, yeah, it introduced a line break. Fine. So we don't have to always depend on P tag to introduce line breaks. No, not necessarily. We can have as simple as this code. Okay, so BR tag is useful time and again to break the content. All right, let's come back to the tags. Then we have some additional tags which are HTML tags, but it helps in making the text appear little differently. And tags are like B tag, strong tag, I tag, EM tag, mark, small, del, INS, SUB, sub, or sup, right? Each of them has a purpose and we can see all of them. So let me do one thing. Let me copy all of these and put up in a page. So we have this page, right? And let me put this here and see what is appearing. Now, we will want to have line breaks so that everything is visible properly. So I'm going to force a line break tag by force a line break by introducing the line break tag. Okay, and then we will see the result in a while. Okay, so our things are put up here. And now let us see the visualization of these. So I will keep them side by side so that we know what is what. Okay, let me add one more line break here. Okay, so the first text had no special effect. It was a free flow text. This is a line. This is line number 1. This is line number 2. So it appears in its default visualization format. Fine. Bold text, you see, is boldened. Okay, is strong is also very similar to bold text. Okay, I makes it little inclined or italic. This is an italic style, Italy's style of writing, so little inclined. Emphasis is also similar to I. Mark test, you see marking automatically it gets a yellow background. It looks like the marker has been run over the content. Small. Small makes it smaller, relatively smaller than the rest of the visualization. So you have not applied any font size thing here, but you can compare the size of small text with rest of the text here. It looks smaller. Del. Del will strike through the content. So you have the content deleted text and it looks like you have crossed it, right? So you have crossed that and it is stricken through the content or the, right? It looks like the, okay. So we are seeing various text in certain style of writing displayed. The default is Times Roman. Its size will be set. Its color is always black by default. Now we want to change. We want to underline like this, but not always in this marking color, which is yellow. We can mark it or underline or set the background color differently. We can set even a background image for the text before it. All right. So let's go through those styles and see how it helps. Let's focus on fonts, starting with the font family. So we have two types basically of font family. One is called serif font, another is called sans serif font. Okay, sans serif. I have made a spelling mistake here. It should be sans, S-A-N-S. Okay, so two types of fonts. One which is serif, where you can observe in this particular F, you have some extra edging at the end. So there are some special hits or serifs that are appearing on each letter, especially here, that is F. You can see some extras at each end. While in sans serif or F, you will not have those extra hits. It is pretty simple, plain. And this one looks like handwritten, while sans serif looks like system generated. So when you are presenting the content on internet, serif is not a preferred font, but unfortunately, as you have observed, browser prefers serif. So sans serif is more preferred by people around the world, and there could be serif with red serifs also, like you see here. The extras are in red. I hear some noise, background noise. Please go unmute. Please keep your mic muted. Okay, thank you. So there are two types of font families mostly. One is called generic family, like serif, like monospace, etc. Monospace is a special style of writing where each character has equal width. So if you see horizontally, each of them will take equal space, even if it is an I letter and F letter or G letter, all letters will have equal lateral space. Then we have a font family like Times New Roman and Arial, etc. We can always go for various fonts. We can install fonts. Now, there are some fonts which are available for English alphabets or English letters. We can have fonts deployed for other languages too. And not all fonts will always be available on your client's machine. So font, because browser is going to use the fonts from the system on which the browser is running, and it is your client's browser. It is not your machine or your server. So you have to always depend on the fonts available on your client's machine. Say on your mobile phone or your friend's mobile phone, whatever fonts are available. So you will not generally stick to one font, but you will specify a family of fonts. And how will we do that? We will see in a while. So before going to font style, let's practice a bit on the font family. So here I have this text, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to specify a font. So I have a choice. I can put a P tag around this, because you remember, if I have to specify a style, I have to have a tag, and tag should support the style property, right? So I can use P tag, but P tag will automatically put a line break. But if I don't want a line break, then I have a choice. I can use another tag provided in HTML library called span. So span does not force the line break, not before, not after, right? So P will force a line break before and after. Span will make it inline or keep the content inline. So it gives an easy way to specify styles. So I will use both and show you how things appear. Okay. So I am before line number 2. Okay. So I will show you the content right now. Just see it. Okay. So here you see this has broken the line once, and then I have another BR which is introducing another line break, and then this one and a line break, right? So span is not introducing a line break. So everything looks in the same line. I am before line number 2 and then the content. So visually, this is not appearing as two separated content. Fine. Okay. Now, I'm just deviating a bit. In some situation like this, well, I don't want to have this whole set of content visible because it is like not so useful. So I want to temporarily or permanently comment out the content. I want to comment out the entire section or one line. I can do it like this, less than exclamation sign minus minus. That indicates the beginning of the comment. And then wherever I want to end the comment, I will say minus minus and greater than. So everything that is between less than, exclamation sign, minus minus, and greater than, and minus minus greater than, though it is present in the source code or HTML file, the visualization will ignore that commented out content. So if I refresh, you will see that everything inside the comment is now gone. Now, if I want to see if it is still present in the source, I can go and view the page source. And here we see it present, but it is in comment. The entire content is commented out. So browser ignores everything which is commented. Okay. All right. Let's come back to font family. Okay. But we'll have to know what is the style property name. And property names are case sensitive and predefined, so you can't change things. Now in my presentation, I had some link. So let me go to this link. And see what are the options available. So here it is giving a whole lot of fonts that are available for use. And then we can choose anything. Let's pick this one. Now you see it is listing a bunch of fonts. And if a font name is multi-word, it has to be put up inside double quoted. And the fonts, multiple fonts, when we are creating a family of fonts, we have to separate them by commas. So I took that and I'm putting the value here. Okay. And as a practice, for every style key value pair, we should end it by a semicolon, because that will allow us putting the next style property. So that's a good practice. All right, so I have made a change in the first line's font family, and let us now see what is happening. Did we observe some change here? You can compare with something without a font family or default font family, and this one has a special font family. You can see the way it is written, the size automatically changed. And what it is doing right now on the client's machine, it will look for the presence of first font. If this is not found, it will try to look for this one. And if that is not found, it will try to look for this one. So in this order of preference, it will go and find the font, and whichever is available will get applied by the browser. So generally, we should put serif or sans serif at the end of the family, so that at least one of the default fonts which are available from this category of serif or sans serif gets applied, and we do not just lose the font application. We still have at least one serif. I wanted a serif. I did not want a serif here. I wanted a sans serif. That means I did not want some strokes. Okay. Here you see I has a stroke. L has a stroke, but here L is very straight. Okay. So that's the difference between serif and sans serif. Any question? Remember, at any point of time, if you have doubts, if you have questions, let me know. I will pause, slow down, and explain to you. Okay. So Keep asking, keep posting your questions on the chat box. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So we saw font family. Now let us see font styling. So family will write the content in different format, and style will get us displayed it in a certain way. The options, okay, serif and sans serif is not clear. So serif, as I said, will have, let me go back to the serif fonts will have some strokes toward at the ends, like this one, like this one. So we generally, when you handwrite, we will, or if you are using cursive writing, you will have these strokes at the ends. Like if you see the middle F, and sans serif will make it appear like this, very straight, flat, without any strokes at the ends. Okay, so this looks cleaner on computer. This looks little hazy, which is good for handwriting. So if you want to depict the handwriting style on computer, we would prefer using serif. But if you want to use cleaner and technical styling of visualization of text, we will prefer sans serif. The text that is appearing here is sans serif. Okay, so all the text that you see here on this slide is sans serif format, while serif is used as default font family or fonts on browsers, especially the Chrome browser that we are seeing right now. Okay, serif font is used to say in certain situation where you are showing some antique writings, like you are showing a storybook. Storybooks will usually use the serif font. So if your website or web page is presenting a story written by an author from a book, okay, story from a storybook, you would prefer serif, which looks like an old style of writing and handwritten thing. But for all newer modern things, serif is not preferred. Sans serif is preferred because it gives you easier, cleaner reading experience. Is it clear, Sam? Okay, I hope it was clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back to font styling. And font styling will make it appear, the text content, whatever font family has been applied, it will appear straight or inclined. So italic, something that we have seen earlier as I tag, we can use italic or oblique property value for font style, and it will show the content something like this. So normal font style will make the content appear like this, straight, vertical, while italic or oblique will make it little inclined towards the right side. Okay, we can use that. You see the appearance, and whenever there is a need, you can put that in practice. So let us see how we can use them actually. So let me add something here after line number 2. Okay, now for this content, which is in the, let me save it first. Here, I wanted to present this content little different than the rest, and I have a choice. I say font family, and I say italic or oblique. As a good practice, I will put a semicolon after this property. And not family, but I wanted to use style. So font style. Family was different. Font style will make it appear in a different way. And you see, while the previous content is normal. The content after this span is normal, but for this content within the span, it looks little inclined. And that is possible if I want to, if I have a full content like this, and a portion of that has to be styled differently. That is where I will prefer using span. So span will make the content in line, or it will maintain the content in line, and it will just give you a handle to specify some additional styling or some other properties possible to specify, right? So span is quite useful. However, we have been using P, and we will use many other container tags. Container tags are those tags which will have a special effect or special placement on the screen. Like B tag is a container tag. Strong tag is also container. But remember, B, strong, I, M, all of these did not introduce a line break on its own. So I had to force line break. And these are similar to span in the presentation behavior, that it is not breaking the flow. It is not introducing a line break. All right, let's go back. So font family is done, font style is done. Let's get into another styling, which is for size. Okay, so font size is the next property that gives us control over the size of the text. Now we have used H1 for larger size. We have used P for regular size. But if we want to control the presentation size or the visualization size of text, we can use font size property. Now, font size property can accept content, accept value in multiple ways or different ways. It accepts values in absolute size. Like you see, I have said 15px. Px is a unit, by the way, so pixels. And that, if I say 15 pixels, so it will take 15 pixel size corresponding to the screen dimension, and then appear the text will appear in that size. Sometimes it is not good. Sometimes we prefer using relative sizing like large or percentage, because that will make it relative to the default sizing of the content that is there. So normally it will appear in certain size, and then I want to say, well, make it larger or make it smaller. We have seen a small tag earlier, and that was doing what? It was making the content appear little smaller than the regular, right? So we can always specify the font size as relative values, and then the appearance of the text will depend, and it depends on the browser's default text sizing. Okay, so text that appear on a computer screen versus the text that appears on a mobile phone screen, the size is always different. And then relative sizing will again make it relatively smaller or larger depending on the value that you have specified for font size. Okay, now when you are doing a absolute sizing or sometimes in relative, you have to specify units, right? And units can be one of the given values: px, em, vw, or percent. Px, as I said earlier, is pixel. The side effect of pixel is that it is no more resizable. So suppose you are zooming the content on the browser through any mechanism. If you have specified the font size as pixel, then it will never change. Even if you're zooming up or zooming down, the text size will not change. That is a bad thing to happen in some occasion. It is not always bad, because sometimes you want the text to remain in its size even if the zoom degree has changed. The second unit is EM. And EM is a relative unit relative to pixel. So one EM is actually equivalent to 16 pixels. And the good thing or advantage of EM is that it resizes according to the zoom level. And that is now recommended by W3C. Now, W3C is a group, it's a non-for-profit group, which are kind of maintaining the specification of HTML, CSS, and many other web-related technology. W3 stands for World Wide Web Consortium. So it's a consortium of many companies and many practitioners who are in web application development, and they maintain the standards or specifications for various web technologies. And we now know HTML is the most fundamental technology. CSS is the next, which helps prepare better visualization for HTML, right? Third is VW or viewport width. This is quite useful in mobile phones. So if you are creating a web page which has to be viewed mostly on mobile phones, VW is useful, and it is relative to the viewport's width. Now, if you have a smallest screen phone, the text should get reduced in size relative to the width. But if you have a tab, for example, then it will get automatically enlarged relative to the tab's screen width. And so it looks very responsive. So your text will increase or decrease in its presentation depending on how much width is available. Or if you are presenting the content on the projector size screen, then the text will appear that large. And the last unit is %. So again, that is relative to the browser's default, and it is relative to its parents and browser's default, etc. So we can see all of these in practice. Let's go back to our example and try to apply some of these. So I will apply this here. Font size. And font size, let's begin with say 16px. Let's begin with this. And I have applied the font size on the span, which is highlighted right now. Let me refresh. (16px) is perhaps the default, so let me make it little bigger and see what happens. If I said 25 pixel, what will happen? Yes, it enlarged in its size. Now let me try to zoom and see if it works. So if I increase the zoom, it is working, right? So that is okay. Let me put EM 25 EM. And remember, 1 EM is equivalent to 16 pixel. So it will look very, very large now. Fine. So remember not to do too much. 2 EM, which is equivalent to 32 pixel. So it will come back. Now we can put EM values in fractions also. Say 1.5, which is equivalent to how much? 16 into 1.5 pixel. So 24 in size. So it changed. So we can put values for EM can be in fractions, while pixels are integer units. All right. If I say one viewport, then what will happen? It will be 1% of the viewport. Let us see if it works here. So small. I increase the screen size. Let me make it a little larger. 10 viewport. So 10% of the viewport size. And if I decrease the size, it should reduce automatically. If I'm reducing the screen width and then I'm increasing the screen width, it will automatically increase. While rest of the content is not changing, the screen width changed and this content is changing. You see, so this is responsive to the viewport's width. Okay, and this is the viewport for now, the browser's width. Then comes the relative sizing, which is a large. So normally it will appear of this size, the other text that you see, but now I say large, that means it is appearing little larger. Okay, I can do percentage too. So I say 200%. So double the size of normal appearance, right? So it is double the size, 200%. Or if I say 50%, so half the size of normal display. Yeah, so we can specify percentage, we can specify viewport, EM, and pixel. Default is, of course, pixel. So if I say 50, let's see what happens. It takes the 50 size, and with the screen changing, the screen width changing, it is not changing. So default unit is pixel. Okay, any question? So far we have learned three things about font. Font family, which will decide how to write, whether we should have strokes at the end or not. Then font style, which will make it appear vertically orthogonal or little inclined. And then we are now dealing with size of the text. Let's go to the next property related to font. So we have seen these three things, and we have also observed that each of these specific things can be specified as independent properties. We specified font family, font style, font size. But in some cases, I want to have a combination of these values. So let me put up a combination, and suppose I put another span around the thing that is towards the end of line 2. And here I want to specify style, font styles, but all of them together. So for that, the property is called font. And in font property, I have some choices. So let's go back and see what are the choices available. So I can specify font for style, variant, weight, size, and family. We have talked about family, we have talked about size, and we have also talked about style. We did not talk about variant and weight. No problem. These are optional things, and you can spend some time looking for these properties. These are CSS properties, and what is the importance of that. So let us see some examples. Here it is saying 20 pixel Arial sans serif. That means it is first specifying the font size, and second, it is specifying the font family. Okay, Arial comma sans serif is the family, and for 20 pixel is the size. So browser is smart enough to identify what is the value, and that links to what actual property. Now it has a discipline, it has to have a sequence, and that is where it gets little complicated. So the second example for font here talks about italic. That means it is saying the font style. Then variant means small caps. That is a variant. Now variant is very interesting thing. It changes the appearance of your characters in the text. say you want to show everything in capital letters. That is actually applicable to only Latin letters where you have caps and small letter appearances. In scripts like Hindi or Tamil or Telugu or some of the Indian languages or scripts, there is no capital letters or small letters. So this is not very useful for such scripts, but for Latin scripts or Roman scripts, it may be useful. Okay, so second one is for variant. Third is for weight and font size. Fourth is, of course, the family in this case. Let's again take a look at all of these together. However, we wanted to practice, so let's go back and specify those values together. So we wanted italic, and I say oblique instead of italic, and then I say 30 pixel, and I say sans, or rather, sans serif, because serif was the default, so I want to make it sans serif. Fine. Now I go back to the screen, and now what changes I have made? I have made changes on this portion, so it should appear differently. Let us see. Yes, so it is now oblique. The font size has become 30, and it is no more written in the serif font like this one. It is in sans serif font. And I said sans serif, so whichever is the default sans serif font, it may not be Lucida, it may be something else, and that is getting applied here. I could have specified various fonts, like here we specified Lucida Sans Unicode and then Lucida Grande. I could have specified those comma separated values too, right? So it's our choice, but it gives a quick shortcut way of specifying multiple font related values in one specific property. All right, let's go back and see what are the properties available. Font sets all font properties in one declaration. Okay, that's what we learned a minute ago. What are the other possible values? If I have to be very, very specific, so font family, we have used it. Font size, we have used it. Font style, we have used it. Font variant specifies whether or not a text should be displayed in a small or caps font. So let us try to also specify that in our example. If I specify oblique and then I say caps, I don't know if that's the right value. Let's see. If I say caps, will it make everything appear in the capital letters? Let's put the value small caps. Small caps, that was the value. Yes, small to caps. So that is the actual value. Now, this is a general situation where you may not remember all properties and their values. So in those cases, you will have to refer the dictionary of CSS. You may have to refer the dictionary of HTML if you are going to use tags and then not sure what should be the property and what should be the tag, etc. So dictionary or library or documentation of specific technologies will always help. All right. So this is how the small letters have been converted into capital letter. So we see a lot of changes happening just by using appropriate style. Okay, let's go back. And font weight specifies the weight of a font. So font size is one thing which is making it larger or smaller depending on the value specified, and font weight will make it additionally heavier or less heavier depending on the values. So font weight, suppose I want to specify font weight. Say font size was 50 for this. Okay, this one is 50, and then I say font weight font weight and I say bold, then let us see if it makes any difference. You see, it has become much thicker than earlier. So the font size increased, the height and breadth of the or width of the characters, while font weight made even each character even thicker than the earlier, right? Because I'm using bold, and I could have used that along with all other properties in the shorthand notation of font. Okay. So this was font's summary. This leads to the end of first hour. Okay, we are dot on time almost, and before time for the first hour of today. If you have any questions, I'm open. Any questions, guys? Remember to practice alongside. When I'm showing you examples, I expect you all to have your editor open, and editor is nothing but a notepad like editor, plain simple one. I'm not forcing you to use the entire HTML construct, which is necessary. That we will enforce later, but right now we are learning about specific tags and their properties and especially the styling. So you should keep practicing. If you do not practice, you will forget. You will forget most of the things. So practice is a must. And when you practice, you try with different values and different combinations. You can make mistakes. You can always make mistakes, and that is how you will learn the most. So keep trying, because styling is all about applying and seeing. You like it, maintain it. If you don't like it, change it and see it again. So it's a iterative way of developing the screen. Remember, I told you guys, web page creation is an art. You have to have an artist's mindset to create a web page, because it's like painting the page. Okay, if you have no more questions for the hour, we will take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and we will do something more in the next hour. Any question before we end the session, first hour session today? All right, let's come back at 5 past 10. We are at 9:58 and we'll come back at 5 past 10. Thank you.